Rink Rats, how are you doing? Happy New Year to everybody. 2023, our first podcast of 2023. My name is Andy Campbell. Good to see you all again, and I'm here with the usual suspects, my partners in crime who've been going with this Rinkcast steady since September, the Bard and Sean Fitzgerald. On behalf of the Rink and the Rinkcast, hey guys, what's happening tonight?
What's up?
What's going on?
Yeah, Bardo, how you been? Bardo was affected, ladies and gentlemen, by Southwest Airlines. What a rocky road for you, Bardo. And so now let's talk about a miserable hockey team. But how you been? Have you recovered?
I've recovered. All was good down in Florida. Made it back. Managed to get a flight home on JetBlue. Thank you, JetBlue. And
did you try to steal a kiss from Minnie?
No, I did not. Minnie was impossible to find. You have to like sign up for one of these things. They're behind a cave. It's like, you know how Disney works. You got to pay for everything. Love it there. But
last 2 years.
Well, yeah.
And Sean Fitzgerald, how are you, my friend? Sporting a Boston hat tonight. Is this some sort of supporting Jake DeBrusk? Now headed to the IR. What's the deal?
No, it's a Boston Red Sox 2004 World Series Sunflower Edition hat from the 47 brand. Had eyed it for a while and realized I had enough points to pay like $10 for it. So ordered it, and then my order didn't get through. I finally got it. So just thought I'm a sunflower.
I like it.
Dark time.
Well, you'd make a lot of friends in my neck of the woods with a lid like that. So appreciate you wearing that tonight.
For sure.
Before we get started, folks, quick shout out to our sponsor, PUCK HCKY in all caps.com, puckhockey.com. Use discount code the Rink in all caps, 10% off. If you spend $100, you get a free t-shirt. So folks, the time is coming where, first, the Blackhawks are really, really bad. I think we can all agree on that. A lot of times we debate a number of different things right now. That is not debatable. As of right now, the Blackhawks have 8 wins on the season. They have 1 win in the month of December, and I think have 1 win since the beginning of December.
They have 1 more win than us. Good.
1 more win than us. There you go. But the Blackhawks are really, really bad. 8 wins so far. They are the worst team in the NHL right now, and that was the plan. If you're tired of bogus hockey, if you don't like the way that it looks, sorry, folks, it's going to be here for a few more months, and things are going to get tricky. But help is on the way. If the Chicago Blackhawks finish in the cellar, in all likelihood, the way that the NHL lottery works now, if you are going to look up the NHL lottery right now and to find out how it works and how, the different ping pong balls and everything, it's pretty much written in Sanskrit. It is very difficult to understand. So what we'll give you is the Cliff Notes version right now.
Sanskrit? You majored in a 3,000-year-old dead language.
Latin is the best I got. Yeah, PCU. If you haven't seen PCU from 1993, see that. At any rate, if the Blackhawks finish in the bottom 3 of the NHL, or if they actually do finish dead last, which is part of the plan, in all likelihood, they will draft in the top 3 in the lottery. I think if they have a 55% plus chance of drafting in the top 3, and the way that it goes, they have something like an 18.5% chance or 19% chance of picking number 1, which is greater than any other club if you finish in the basement. The bottom line right now, folks, is you're hoping the Hawks finish in the basement. You want them to have the number 1 overall pick. And why is that, folks? And if any of you have not been paying attention in the hockey world or been living on the moon, the World Junior Tournament has been going on. The Blackhawks have 5 prospects in the World Junior Tournament. We're going to touch base on those. But the first thing we're going to talk about is a consensus number 1 overall pick who there is a real possibility that this young man could be wearing the red and black of the Chicago Blackhawks, and that's Connor Bedard, who's playing for Canada. He is 17 years young. He looks NHL ready today. He's been lights out in the World Junior Tournament. He's going to go number 1. We've talked about him. We've talked about Adam Fantilli, 1 and verse 2. Bard, where are you on this right now? Is what I want to know.
Yeah, you were
Yeah, we're going to start with Bard.
That's fine. Bard. Let me clarify and go back to what I said. I loved Fantilli as a prospect. I still do. He hasn't done much in this tournament, which is fine. I mean, it happens. He's whiffed on a lot of one-timers. He's just, he's also playing on a fourth line, so maybe he hasn't worked his way up, and that's all good. But the way that I'm looking at it is, look, Bedard is far and away the best prospect, and he looks that way. I hope he can stick at center. He looks like he can because he's kind of built almost like a bowling ball. He's like 5'10", 190, and he'll mix it up and just doesn't seem to give a shit. He will just roll with the punches. Right. So look, I mean, I can't sit here and get my hopes up and say, about this kid. But I got to tell you, I have watched also, look, I still like Fantilli. I'm going to put those two aside. Yep. Leo Carlson's looked really, really good. I've been very impressed by him. So to me, it's like you have Bedard here, but I don't think the consolation prizes are really bad because those probably go number one in any other draft, probably in the last maybe decade. Yep. So it's a talent-rich draft. There's no doubt about that.
Yes. There's no doubt about that. I do think that Connor Bedard has alleviated any concerns that he's the consensus number one overall pick. He does appear to be a generational talent. His skill is out of control. His vision, his shot, and just the way he plays. I mean, he's got it. Whatever that sixth sense, whatever that
it factor.
That it factor. I mean, he is going to be an impact pro for a very long time. Shawnee, what are your thoughts on this? And have you been watching Connor Bedard? He's setting goal records right now in the tournament.
Yeah, I've tuned in just to watch him. I was reading an article too. Pierre LeBrun wrote an article for The Athletic about how Jaromir Jagr was in the tournament at 17 and he played well, and Bedard is playing beyond that. Jagr never dominated a game or took over the tournament like Bedard has. I mean, he willed Canada to beat, was it Denmark when they were down 2 goals, and he willed them back into it?
When he got to the semis, the win to get to the semis,
he is by far the best player, and I get everyone is just saying, is he a center? Is he a wing? I think if you put him on the ice, it doesn't really matter.
I don't think it matters
that
at all.
Talented. He's going to impact the game on every shift he's on the ice. So the center, the wing debate, it doesn't matter. Like, he's that good.
Yeah.
And whoever ends up with him is going to get a great young player. Hopefully he stays healthy and plays for a gajillion years. But like Bardo said, Carlson and Fantilli are two really good prospects too. And then even if you fall to fourth and you get Michkov, he's still a really good prospect. The only thing is, being from Russia, the KHL, it's going to take him longer to come over, but still.
Yeah, if the Hawks finish dead last, top 3 is probably in the cards.
Yes. Tankathon.
I think you're guaranteed no worse than the third pick if you finish.
If you finish dead last, you are guaranteed top 3.
And they're doing this 8-win pace or whatever it is with Taves and Kane, which is amazing.
Yeah, I mean the Blackhawks are really, really bad.
They're bad. They're best players.
I mean, this might be the worst team of our lifetime that we've seen.
And it's scary because Jake McCabe is actually playing really well on defense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we're going to talk about Jake McCabe in a little bit, folks. But I guess I just from watching the World Junior Tournament, I'm trying so hard. I feel like that, that 6-year-old who wanted that drum set, and it feels like unreachable. And I'm asking for it for Christmas, and my parents are going, "There's no way this is going to happen," but just try to ignore these.
Excuse me.
Basically, I mean, it's so hard to try to put out of your mind the possibility that Connor Bedard can be in Chicago next year. But if there's someone that has a chance, the best chance right now, if the season ended today, the best chance at getting this kid is the Chicago Blackhawks. And it's crazy to think about that. There's the possibility that maybe Taves and Kane could exit, and you're saying, "Oh my gosh, we just lost these 2 guys and an era is over." And then Bedard comes in, and you're all of a sudden, another exciting ticket in hockey. based on this one player who's totally taking over hockey games.
If they get him, that's almost the equivalent in a way. It's not really, it's a little different, but it's almost like going from like Peyton Manning to Andrew Luck or Favre to Aaron Rodgers. Like that's what it's like. That's like basically having a star player, a potential star player for God knows how long. We just went through a decade or plus with Kane and Taves, and now here we are with potentially getting another kid who could be another Crosby.
Yeah. Now, I mean, there might be some. So here's the thing, and I'm going to mention this, and I'm incredibly biased. And Sean, I'd really love to hear what you think of this. I'm incredibly biased when I talk about the Chicago Blackhawks. I recognize that my favorite team is a big market hockey team. I also am a conspiracy theorist, just in general.
I didn't kill Kennedy, if that's what you're alluding to.
I'm saying it would be a league-wide travesty and a failure of the NHL if somehow he ends up in Phoenix and is on the Arizona Coyotes. I can't. I've said this before, folks, and I'm sorry. I'm beating a dead drum, dead horse, whatever you want to call it. If this type of NHL player is playing in front of 5,000 fans for half of his games for the first 3 years of his NHL career, it is a loss for the league. It is lost money. It's insane. The Arizona Coyotes cannot have this player. The Arizona Coyotes should not even be a team. They should be out. If there are conspiracy wins, what else do you guys think? I mean, do you think somehow if Montreal could have the top pick overall, the number one overall pick 2 years in a row, if the NHL gets involved and just said, let's give it to Montreal again, does this kid need to go to a big market? Is money going to be involved? Is there going to be shadiness?
Yes.
The Blackhawks make so much sense too.
They do.
They're a big market team. The audience shows up for big market games like TNT, ESPN. If in 2 seasons or 3 seasons they're in the playoffs, the ratings are going to be unreal. And the NHL benefits for that. Also, despite that all the money the NHL really gets from TV rights is from TSN in Canada, the U.S. is the market for the NHL. Like, there's several teams in Canada, but the majority of teams are in the United States.
Yeah.
So if he doesn't go to Chicago, if he goes to Arizona, it's an absolute joke. Like it's just
the NHL.
I don't even want to think.
Oh, go on.
I don't even want to think about it. It'd be like Patrick Ewing playing for the Charlotte Bobcats or something like that, like in that draft.
Yeah, I mean, and there could be some other. I mean, Columbus they're pretty low right now. They can end up in the top 3.
They're not Anaheim. The NHL loves putting the Blackhawks on prime time. They love it. They put them on prime time even when they're terrible, like they are now. They make sure because they know people are gonna be like, oh, the Blackhawks. They've won Stanley Cups in the not so distant future. Like people who didn't follow the day-to-day inner workings of the Chicago Blackhawks are still maybe gonna tune in, especially if they have a marquee name. It's just like if some casual fan was flipping through and they saw the Edmonton Oilers and they were in prime time and they're like, oh, that Connor McDavid guy plays for them. Maybe we'll tune in for a few minutes of that. That's what the Blackhawks would be with Bedard.
Yeah. Well, they always say the NHL is better with, the original 6 and them all doing well. So, I mean, that's just a fact. And the NHL is also not the NFL where it's like the NFL, you could put your best player in the game anywhere and it doesn't matter. And they'll be stars, the best player in the game is in Kansas City. So biased as I may be, but still, I mean, he's, the best player in the game and he's in Kansas City. So, and it's a very small market. So,
but they're on national TV. How many times? Like they might as well be the Sunday Night Football team.
Yep. So
that's the Dallas Cowboys,
right? I mean, so I guess if Bettman and his buddies get together, and they're probably saying, "Look, they're okay." So there's 2 ways this can go. One is Bettman can get stubborn and say, "I've tried everything to make Arizona work. I'll never give up on Arizona being a hockey place. I've got to give them Bedard. It's my last ditch effort." It'd be selfish and it would be unbelievable. It'd also be a very Bettman thing to do. Yeah. But if he's smart, the people around him, I'm hoping are saying, look, you can't have this one. He needs to land in Chicago. He needs to land somewhere else. So folks, again, we're talking conspiracies here.
Well,
is this legit? Is the lottery legit? We don't actually see the ping pong balls rattling around. They just basically hold up cards and say, here's who's got the pick. So we don't see the stuff behind the candelabra, if you will. So maybe it's a conspiracy, maybe it's not. Bottom line is he needs to be in Chicago. Hawks need to keep tanking. So if you didn't believe in the tank, you better now.
and if everybody who was the first month of the year blowing up our Twitter feed saying they're not going to tank and the people they're going to be buying at the deadline, I hope you all are vindicated for saying, wait, be patient. This is going to work. Like, this is how it, like, there's not enough talent on this team. And now I feel vindicated.
I totally agree. And, I'm with you on that, especially because, if you think about it right now, it's the most positive thing the Hawks have going for them right now is the fact that Connor Bedard is starring right now. And people are finally realizing, like, putting 2 and 2 together and saying, oh my God, they actually have a plan. They may actually tank and get this kid. So that's like it's almost like the aha moment is what they're having.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
We're all like, oh, we can't tank. We can't trade Kane. You know what? We got 8 wins with Kane and Taves. Trade him. Let's get him out of here.
Yeah. No, I mean, totally agree, Bardo. I think it's just, for me anyway, I'm using I language. I don't want to speak for anyone else. I'm just alarmed at how good this kid is. I mean, you watch highlights and it's, Fantilli and Bedard and the debate and Carlson, and you can go on YouTube and then you watch these games and you go, oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, he's pretty lights out. So speaking of the World Junior Tournament, folks, there are Hawks prospects there that are drafted by Chicago, that Chicago own the rights to, 3 of which are going for a gold medal right now, up 2-0 when we began the show. I don't know what the score is off the top of my head. So there's Ethan Del Mastro, who is a 4th round pick in 2021. Is that right?
I think that's right.
Okay. I think you're correct. I'm looking that up right now. I should have had that ready. Sorry. I'm usually Johnny on the spot with that stuff. He was a 4th round pick in 2021. Yep.
2021 4th round pick. Kevin Korchinski, who is the Blackhawks' 1st overall pick, 7th. The Blackhawks' 1st round pick, 7th overall, the 2022 draft. And Nolan Allen, which was Stan's last draft pick, which I believe was 32nd overall, the Blackhawks' 1st round pick in 2021. That was part of the Seth Jones trade because they needed to trade down to get Jones and then gave up a bigger pick. At any rate, those 3 are going for a gold medal right now. I'm just going to go ahead and throw it out there. Korchinski, his time's not ready yet. He's played limited minutes. He got a goal. It was great. Obviously, the team he's on is pretty stacked. His time will come. Young kid. He will probably be in this tournament next year. Nolan Allen kind of looks like a guy. He's doing fine. But Ethan Del Mastro is the one that seems like he's standing out. He played 27 minutes last night in the semifinals against the United States. Gave Bedard a disgusting feed on the doorstep.
Yep.
To make the game 2-1 when the U.S. had come out 2-0. Bardo, what do you think of Del Mastro? I mean, this kid looks good. Yeah.
I mean, look, let me caveat it like I always do. They're all prospects until proven otherwise. But this kid is not – I don't think he's left the ice. After the game was over, I think he stayed on the ice and stayed in the same uniform and everything. And I don't think he's left the ice. He is impressive. I mean, he's big. He's like 6'4". He's got to be well over 2 bills. He's he can skate pretty well. He's got good vision.
Yeah.
He can throw a little lumber out there. I mean, to me, he's good. I mean, he could be ready sooner than later. I mean, he's probably the most pro-ready out of all of them. And I will say this, out of Nolan Allen, I mean, not a lot of people liked that pick. They thought it was a reach when
Ray does not love that pick.
Yeah, I don't love it either. I mean, I thought it was just one of those. It was kind of a blah pick, but he's actually, improved his game. He's shown a little bit of wheels. He's grown, I think, the offensive side of his game, and because he was known as a defensive guy, but he's okay. I mean, Will he be a second or third pair? I don't know, but to me, I think he's got potential.
Yeah,
he's a guy. So
yeah,
the Blackhawks are high on him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Del Mastro, I mean, this is his third season in the OHL. He turns 20 in January. You're going to see him in camp. I think there's the possibility that, again, we don't know what the makeup of the Blackhawks roster is next year. Will he be able to come in and compete for a spot? I don't know. I mean, you'll have some older defensemen. We don't know if Jake McCabe's going to be moved. You will still have Seth Jones around.
Connor Murphy.
There's already articles out about how they need to keep Seth or Jones because of his cap hit, because they don't know how the Blackhawks are going to reach the floor.
Never thought we'd have
articles now.
Yeah, that's not good. So,
no.
At any rate, but I think Del Mastro, he's going to be an NHL player. I mean, I think he'll be a really good one. He could be a pretty good one.
Yeah. I'm not going to say he's going to be a Norris Trophy Hall of Fame or anything like that, but I think he could be a steady player, and I could see him and Korchinski potentially as a pair down the road.
Yeah, our guy Scott Powers of The Athletic put out an article last week, and he said beyond them, the Blackhawks are higher, or obviously Korchinski. They're hoping Sam Rinzel. I'm sure I butchered that. To Gates' pleasure. They're also higher on Kaiser, Wyatt Kaiser that everybody loves. Yep. Del Mastro, Vlasic, and then they think some combination of Allen, Phillips, Regula, Roos, Galvis, Creever, and Mitchell can be in the NHL future.
Yeah. I wonder if we're running out of time on Regula. I mean, I know I've always been a big advocate, but I was hoping by now he would have made that next step, and he hasn't. So we'll see. But Del Mastro, I would not be surprised if next year he shows up to camp and they give him every opportunity to make the club.
I agree with that.
I
mean, to me, it's exciting that half the starting. I mean, look, half of the 6D are Blackhawk prospects. That to me is pretty cool.
Yeah,
I'll take that.
Yeah, and this is only the beginning, boys. Like there's going to be. This is only the beginning. Like Korchinski probably will be in the AHL next year and maybe get some time in the NHL. Del Mastro, we'll probably see more of Vlasic next year. Like
Rinzel will be USA next year.
Yeah. And then they've got one more. They've got Sternberg, if you will. Sternberg, who played on Sweden. Another, I can't remember where he was drafted by the Blackhawks. Victor Sternberg. But anyway, he had a huge goal in a quarterfinal win shorthanded over Finland, which was awesome. Now I think he could end up, being a useful player, but at the same time, he does kind of have that bottom six look to him. Where he has penalty killing capabilities. He's probably going to work in the dot pretty well. Maybe a third or fourth line center in the NHL just seems like his style. And it looked like that in the tournament. It's got pretty good speed, but a little bit of a choppy stride, not as much of a playmaker, but just kind of has a nose for things. So, who knows where he will land.
I'd rather have a pipeline of those guys than have to go and spend stupid money on bottom six guys,
Exactly. I was thinking the same thing, Bardo.
Those guys you can probably find a lot easier. And to me, it's like, let's keep building those guys and, and developing them and replacing them so we don't have to overpay for some stupid stuff.
Yeah, right. Well, Stan Bowman, you did one thing right in your final draft that we know about, and that's with 2 4th-round picks, number 104 and number 105 overall. You got Sternberg and Del Mastro. So those are 2 pretty good picks in the 4th round. If you're gonna do it, that's a good way to do it. But I agree. I think Del Mastro is definitely was the best Chicago prospect easily in the tournament. I mean, he's Canada's best defenseman.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of people, if they said, obviously it's Bedard's tournament, he'll be player of the tournament. But if you were to list top 5, I wouldn't be surprised if they said who's the best defenseman in the tournament. Del Mastro was.
If they have an all tournament team, he's a lock to get on.
Yeah, that. He might be on that. That defenseman from Switzerland that the Dallas Stars picked, I thought was lights out. Mm-hmm. That guy was so good. I can't remember his name. I should remember his name. Anyway. So let's talk about the trade wins. So I think, one of the things that is going on right now, or that everyone said, well, wait till the new year, and then the conversation with Jonathan Taves and Patrick Kane and their agent separately. They have the same agent. They'll have separate conversations. Pat Bryson. I don't know if it's Bryson or Brisson. I just read it.
I was going to say Brisson, but
yeah, I've never heard it. What's that?
But
what do you got?
Brisson.
Brisson. Maybe it's Brisson. Yeah, we do not know. At any rate, those conversations, if they haven't happened at some point, the conversation of do you want to leave Chicago is coming. It's imminent. It's going to happen at any time. Who's staying? Who's going? Okay, Kane and Taves. Let's just talk about them briefly. We've been talking about this a lot. Patrick Kane has not had a great season. By Patrick Kane's standards, it's easy to say, well, it's not his fault. He doesn't have anyone to play with. In years past, he has made good players great. He's had some very bad line mates in the past, and he's still scored a lot. This year, it's not happening at that rate. Maybe some of that's age. Maybe some of that's disinterest. Maybe some of that's just like, I'm just tired of, getting kicked gutter to post around. So Patrick Kane out of here. Is he going to ask for it, guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. I'd say so.
I think when he does get traded, I think we're going to see the old Kane as opposed to an old Kane, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So, I think he just mentally is shot. I think he's just done here. I don't think he's done here necessarily in a negative way. I think he's trying to make it work. And I think the writing is just on the wall that it's just they're ready to move on. I think he's getting ready to move on. I think the outcome of the season so far is basically telling him that he needs to waive his no trade clause, move on. He could always come back. He's going to get his number retired. He could sign for a year in 3 years if he wants, and come back and try to make a last run. So who knows? But I think he's gone.
Yeah. Shawnee, you feel the same deal? That's going to be it?
I do. I think he's I think it's a done deal.
Yeah.
I think by his play, you can only do so much. Even like when he made some guys that weren't as good better, these guys just aren't even in that category.
Yeah, it's not happening anymore.
No.
Yeah, it's not happening. And I think he's at that point of his career where if you put him on a line with good players, then all of a sudden, Bardo, to your point, we're going to see the old Patrick Kane just spark up and go, okay, now this is fun again.
Yep.
and he's a big time, big game player. Put him in a playoff race, or somebody who's going to the playoffs. Like, we're going to see the old Showtime.
Yeah.
Yep. I think he's going to be rejuvenated. The bright lights bring out the brightest stars, and I think that's.
I like that. Yeah. So now Scott Powers and Mark Lazarus of The Athletic, they just released an article where they started talking about some of this. They still believe, I do too, that he's still first round worthy, that you can still get a first round pick for him in some format. Yep. Maybe a first round pick, maybe a prospect. I don't think it'll be as heavy of a load as it would have been 3 months ago, or over the summer, for that matter, as much of a haul back. But do you guys still think first round minimum?
Minimum.
I
think first round, and then a prospect and maybe a contract of a young player or a bust or something like that. Look, Brandon Hagel got us 2 first-round picks. This is Patrick Kane, who's going to the Hall of Fame, walking in backwards. So, I still think he'll get him definitely a first-round pick.
Yeah,
most likely a prospect, maybe 2 first-round picks, and some combination. I think it's going to be 2 to 3 assets.
I mean, just by moving. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Shawnee.
No, I've started with this point on the Patrick Kane deal a couple of times. I think, Charlie Rillamidiotis, or however you say his name on NBC's,
Charlie R.
Yeah, Charlie R. Said it that the starting point is what the Flyers got for Claude Giroux. You got to start at some variation of that. They got a first round pick, they got Owen Tippett, and they got a third rounder.
Right.
So I think that's the bottom of what you ask for, I think.
Yeah. Well, just by trading Patrick Kane, if and when it happens, and if it does get a 2023 first round pick, then the Blackhawks are doing exactly what they did in 2022, and they've got 3 first round picks.
Yes,
which is gold.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're picking, if you have 6 first round picks over 2 seasons, and then a guaranteed 2 more in 2024, things are pretty cool, I guess, for lack of a better term. Let's move on to Jonathan Toews. Jonathan Toews, there's so much speculation about him. He is a very usable. God, that sounds so bad. What am I saying? Useful hockey player for a playoff team. Usable. Jeez. Yeah. Wow. It's definitely the new year, and I definitely fell asleep for 2 weeks.
I'm still asleep.
Yeah, he's going to end up. This is a guy who this year will probably finish with 20 plus goals. I mean, he could be a 20 goal scorer this year, and he's top 3 in the league every year in the dot. Who doesn't want that guy? So, I guess the big rumbling that's going around right now that a lot of bloggers and people that speculate and people that aren't in the conversations with Toews and his agent is that, does he just still want to be this guy in Chicago? Does he still want to be Johnny Captain? Does he still want to be the leader? Can he be in a different role as a player and be able to embrace it? Because he wouldn't be that guy. If he jumps onto a contender, he's a second or third line center. More defensive responsibility. Counted on chipping in, but doing, his role will be different. He's never known anything else than being the captain and being the do everything guy. Will that limit the Hawks' ability to trade him? Will he just say, no, I just don't want to do it? Sean.
I've questioned that reading those posts too. I guess my thought process would be, if he's traded to a team where the current captain is deferential to him. You remember, I believe it was what was the year of the Soldier Field outdoor game? Was that 2014? The Canadian Olympic team, Sidney Crosby was named the captain, but he went to Jonathan Toews and said, hey, are you okay with this? Before he was named captain of Team Canada. So I think if Toews is traded into a situation where the current leader or something is deferential to him or shares that leadership role with him, he might be able to make it work. But that's why I still think New Jersey and a young team, because then he's an older player, he's a leader. They're going to be deferential to him, look to him for his experience and those qualities that he bring. I think that's the perfect situation for him. If he goes to a team where there's that's the whole thing. But if he can't find that fit, I think he stays.
Well, I still remember in 2010 when Canada won gold and Mike Babcock after the tournament, when everyone was talking about Sid and the golden goal, and Babcock came straight out and he just goes, this was Toews' team.
Yeah.
This was his team. Bardo, you were about to say something.
Yeah, no, I think, the other side of the coin about where he can get traded, I heard some rumblings about Boston, which is interesting because that's a veteran-laden team, and it's like, how would he fit? And, I read something, I think, this week that almost compared him to, is he sort of the, this year's like Antoine Vermette, a guy.
I read that too.
Could score a little bit, but, where his value is as kind of a shutdown guy, as a face-off guy, penalty killer, power play, be that third line guy that kind of slots right in. And if you need to move him up, It's fine. But I'm 50-50 on whether they're going to trade him. He is having, I guess the more productive year than Kane, but, he does have a little bit more of an injury history. He is a rental. He's probably going to cost a lot, and I'm sure teams are going to want to have him eat some have the Hawks eat some salary. So it's going to be an interesting thing. And I think there is more emotion played in this one than there is the Kane one. Because I think Kane's checked out. Toews, I think he has a legacy that he kind of wants to be like that Tony Gwynn, that guy who spends his whole career in one place.
Stan Mikita.
Yeah. So
no, and I also, a lot of people are saying because of the amount of salary and what he would bring to a team, that it might have to be a 3-way team trade.
Yeah.
That's been thrown out there a lot because of,
usually you pay double for that kind of action, Cotton.
You're right. Those of you that don't know, Sean is quoting ESPN 8, the Ocho.
The Ocho.
The Ocho. But three teams might be involved, but then the other side of that too, and that what no one's talking about is, people are saying, oh, he's never known anything being the leader of a team, but maybe he doesn't even want that anymore. I mean, think about that. That could be pretty liberating. I mean, heavy lies the crown. To be,
he's relieved on the burden.
I was going to say, I think for him, it's just going to be by default. He's going to be a leader. And I think it also depends on where he goes. Right. Boston, it's just going to be, I'm just looking to contribute, I just want to be part of the team and be a fit. I mean, if he goes to a team like New Jersey or Buffalo, I mean, then they're going to look to him because he's got experience and they're going to want to lean on that. So,
yeah, I mean, I also think with the Boston Chase, if he goes to Boston, they're not going to lose a face-off. I mean, if their centers are Bergeron, Krejci, and Taves, that's ridiculous. Unreal. The Boston thing, Boston, I talk about Boston all the time, obviously, because that's the team I hear about the most living out here. But, Jake DeBrusk just went to the IR. But I don't know that Boston will have the assets for Patrick Kane, but they might be able to be involved in a Jonathan Taves deal.
Yeah. To me, I think a first-round pick would be easier for them to give up if they still have it. But, I mean, I don't know their prospect pool very well, and I would imagine it's not great.
They have one good one, Fabian Lysell.
Yes.
He's in Providence right now. He was in the World Junior Tournament. He did not have a great World Junior Tournament. But, I mean, other than him, their prospect pool is pretty thin, and I would doubt that they would want to part ways with him. And that, if I'm GM, if I'm Kevin, I'm saying if you want Kane, it's going to be a first and it's going to be Lysell. And if I'm Boston, I'm saying, well, we're not doing that. Goodbye.
I just threw out a team without even actually thinking about it, which is Buffalo, because they're playing really well. They're in the midst of a playoff race. They have a pretty stacked prospect pool. Could they be a team that's a fit for Taves? I mean, obviously Kane, we know he's from Buffalo, but wouldn't it be ironic if Taves is the one that gets
traded up there?
Wild.
They could really use a guy like Ryan O'Reilly up there in Buffalo.
Well said. Very true.
Yeah, and then they have no cap space at all. The Carolina Hurricanes are another team that they've been playing such good hockey.
Yeah.
Of late, but I don't know where they would factor into trades for either one of these two guys.
I don't think.
Do you think? While we were discussing this, I was just thinking about this. Do you think Kyle Davidson is going to be willing to take prospects back, or does he want picks?
I mean, if there's good prospects, you take him back. First of all, I just called him Kevin, and he's Kyle Davidson. I'm just not all there tonight.
You watched Home Alone too many times, I guess.
GM Kevin, Kyle Davidson. Yeah. But no, I mean, if you have good prospects, get them. I mean, if they've got kids in the system, if they've got a 20-year-old who is a late first-round pick, I'm sure, who's playing somewhere, you're going to want that kid.
I mean, a lot of times the prospects come from, guys that they probably had their eye on in the draft a couple of years ago, and now they sign them and maybe they're available. I think that's kind of one way to look at it. The other thing is with draft picks, it's kind of like, you almost get to control your own destiny, so to speak. You can kind of pick the player you want, and you've been scouting, and it's kind of fresh blood. You develop him the way that you want to develop him versus him kind of taking a detour. And also these assets can be flipped for something. So,
right.
Yeah. I just wonder because of what Davidson did with DeBrincat, how he got draft picks back, and every player thus far that he's traded with any significant value from the Blackhawks, he's only taken draft picks back. That's just my thought process on it.
Yeah. Gotcha. All right. Well, let's move on from those two. We talk about them a lot. Jake McCabe's name has come up. Jake McCabe has actually had a pretty good hockey season. He's having a good season, and he's on a bad team. Tough luck for him. His name has been linked with the Edmonton Oilers. Edmonton is just dying for defensemen. They need somebody. McCabe would actually be a pretty decent fit there. What would he command in a return? I mean, I I can't imagine it would be much because Edmonton would be taking on his salary of $4 million a year,
For
which
the
is a
next
lot for him. Which is a lot
2
for him.
seasons after this one.
Right. So they'd be taking that. So I don't know how much more you'd get in return. I mean, Bardo, could you get a second rounder for McCabe?
Maybe it depends on the market. I think it depends on the market for him. I mean, maybe you get a second or third or a second and a fifth or something, but look, I think it really just depends on what the market is. I mean, how it is. It's supply and demand. I mean, if they can create some sort of a bidding war for him, then yeah, they may do that because Edmonton may be competing to, may want to keep him away from somebody in their division. And then all of a sudden they'll up the ante and say, hey, we've got 3 second-round picks. We'll give you one of them. So.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, I won't be totally bummed if they can't move McCabe. I mean, he's not easy to move. It might be Edmonton or bust at that point. I don't know who else would open their doors. Maybe a Toronto, but they've got no money. They've got no space to add him. They can't add him.
Yeah, the Hawks may need to eat on there on his salary, but I mean, I don't want to get into the nuances of it too much. But isn't there a rule that you can only eat a certain percentage?
Yes, you can only retain 50% of 2 contracts.
Right. So they need to find out first what's going on with Kane and Taves
before they
They can't entertain any salary eating until they find out what's going on with those two.
Right. So all of this has to. I mean, it's a big mess, all that has to play out. But I mean, look, I think even on a cup team, I think McCabe can be a 4 or 5 defenseman. I won't say that he's definitely a second pair defenseman, but I definitely don't think he's just a third pair. I think you could put him in as a 4th, maybe a 5th defenseman. So
no. I mean, yeah, he's the only defenseman on the Chicago Blackhawks right now that you don't notice, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
He's 29 years old. He might play in the NHL for 5 more years, maybe, if that. Yeah. If you're playing for the Chicago Blackhawks and you're plus and you're a defenseman right now,
that's impressive.
Going on. Yeah, which is really impressive. Yeah. So there's another, but again, we talked about the Hawks next year having to hit the cap floor.
Right.
And so, I mean, there's, the other thing that could help them hit the cap floor, and this has also come up lately, is the idea of extending Max Domi and not trading him when the whole concept of him coming originally was sign him for a year and flip him at the deadline. He's had a decent year. It sounds like he really likes Chicago.
You don't have to overpay him. You could give him a modest raise.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I don't love it. But is a Max Domi a fine cap hit for a rebuilding team? I mean, because what can you honestly get for him?
Fifth.
I think you have to see what the market is, because here's the thing: he's only on a 1-year deal. You could always bring him back
and give him the raise,
and have an asset with him. So
I
mean, I don't know if he went out and tested the market and just didn't get traded, was an unrestricted free agent this summer, who's picking him up? And for more than a year? Not that many people. So if I'm his agent, the Blackhawks offered him a 2-year deal, I'm jumping all over it.
Yeah, I think so.
And I'm just saying, buddy, you got to do this and you got to do it now.
Yep.
But there were even rumblings in The Athletic the other day that he and his agent and Kyle Davidson were actually talking about a possible extension. Now, I mean, if the deadline approaches and you're not going to get anything more for Max Domi than 4th, 5th round pick or some sort of spare part and nothing too glamorous, then fine, just re-sign him.
Yeah.
I mean, you do need to hit the cap floor. Yeah. I mean, you need bodies to hit the cap floor.
Well, the other good thing is that, even if you do trade him, you could also become the graveyard and get assets, if a team wants to get rid of, and that goes to the whole point that Fitzy made about, a 3-way deal, if you do something with Taves and that requires you to take a bad contract that all you do is stick on IR, then that bad contract could come with an asset. So, I mean, it's a shell game. You got to play around with it, but I think they're in a good spot. It's good that they are going to be, at the cap floor. I think that to me is something you can figure out. At this point, it's about acquiring as much talent as possible.
Yeah. I mean, I don't I also, just thinking about other Hawks, the other, rental was Andreas Anasio, and I think that, he's someone that I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know who's going to be calling about him. They would have been better off trading him in November.
Yeah.
When he was on fire, yeah.
Yeah, but I just don't. He's one of the. He might just walk out the door this summer. I don't know. I just don't know what kind of value you can get in return. He might be one of the. Yeah. If anyone calls and offers any sort of draft,
you pack his bags.
Yeah. If someone calls and says 6th round pick for him and future considerations, I think you just do it. You just go, okay, bye.
I think those are the deals that happen after at 3:15. If the deadline's at 3:00, you at 3:15, you always see that litany of deals that come through of guys that are more or less bottom 6 forwards on contenders. To me, he's a guy that's a speed guy, and speed wins in the NHL. So to me, I think there'll be a place for him in the bottom 6. I'm kind of optimistic that he's going to get traded, but it's going to be, like you said, for peanuts. It's going to be for a 6th round pick.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be low. And the only other player that I think you could get maybe something back if someone's looking for a 4th liner and they're getting really desperate is Taylor Radish. Maybe, but I don't know what kind of return you get there. He's been okay this year.
Yeah.
He's cheap and he's
he's pumped. He's 24 years old. He plays a tough brand of hockey. He's pumped in 10 goals so far this year. That's pretty good for him.
Yeah.
But
I do think Lafferty's going to have a market because he's controllable. He's cheap. Sam Lafferty.
Yeah, Lafferty could have a market. Yeah, but again, you also some of these guys are cheap labor for a rebuilding team too.
Right.
And you just
really bag of bones, Jack Johnson.
Yeah, you just need to think about that. It's if you're not getting anything of value in return for these guys, then just either sign them on the cheap or, I'm fine if Taylor Radish comes back next year on a 1-year deal for $1.5 million. Great.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Jack Johnson, I would probably just trade.
Taylor Radish is on a contract next year.
Oh, yeah. Radish is under 1 more year? Okay, good.
Yeah, Radish and Boris Kachuk are under contract at $750,000.
Just keep those guys around and, hope they do well and trade them next year. I don't know.
What about Jason Dickinson?
I was going to say, I look to trade Jack Johnson because, I just feel bad for the guy. I know he was probably just looking for a job, and I think he was expecting to just, play and then maybe get flipped at the deadline. Just trade him. Don't keep him here to rot when there's only 3 people in the stadium. So in the United Center, rather. I'm aging myself, but
does anyone trade for him? Does anyone just try to?
Maybe he goes back to Colorado for.
I would give him for future considerations.
Yeah. Just say, buddy, if you want out of here, we'll just make it happen.
Yeah, I would trade him for cash.
Yeah. Future considerations and an autograph and an autograph album by Jack Johnson.
There you go. Yeah. Now you're talking. It's good music. Yeah. Cool. Well, folks, stay tuned. Any other parting shots tonight before we break? We've got some pretty bad hockey still to be played by the Chicago Blackhawks in the upcoming weeks. But folks, it's been a long start to the season, but things are about to get interesting in Chicago. They are. We are going to reach that point. We're weeks away from the deadline. The trade deadline is in March, and this is where things are going to start to get interesting, where we might say goodbye to some old faces. Any parting thoughts, Bardo, Sean?
I know that this is painful to watch if you're watching just the NHL club, but you got to think big picture. This is something that they should have done a couple of years ago. I know I've preached that, but I think it's just preaching patience and just continue to, hope that they make some smart moves to, at the trade deadline and draft well, and hopefully the ping pong balls fall their way.
If you want to go see hockey, go check out the Rockford Ice Hogs. They've got a blend of veterans and some prospects. They're playing all right. Go check out they're 19-10. And check out the Rockford Ice Hogs. Go see them play the Wolves.
There you go.
In Rosemont there. If they hadn't played the day after Christmas, I would have gone.
Yeah. Not a bad take. Not a bad take. And folks, tomorrow night, Lucas Reichel will be playing for the Blackhawks. The Blackhawks actually have an opportunity to win a game tomorrow. They are playing against the Arizona Coyotes, who we're hoping will not get Connor Bedard. Everyone in the world that follows hockey should hope for that. And they have a chance to win tomorrow night. If you're looking for a night where the Hawks have a chance to win, but you should be rooting against them regardless.
Yeah, the tank is the motto in Chicago right now.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't think there's been a bigger tank job for a prospect maybe since Mario Lemieux. I mean, maybe since the Penguins. You
don't think Buffalo's tank job for Connor McDavid was?
Yeah, and then they didn't get him, so maybe that was conspiracy too. Maybe the league didn't like him for doing that, but I don't know. I mean, but they did get Eichel, and obviously that didn't work out. Didn't work out in Buffalo, but a damn good hockey player. And, a lot of people are also saying that Adam Fantilli is the best college hockey prospect since Jack Eichel. So we want Bedard. If it's anyone in the top 3, you take, and you start building from there. But yeah.
And don't forget, you still have another pick in the first round.
Yep. But folks,
at least 2.
When that lottery becomes revealed in May, folks, if you have ever thought in your life about being a season ticket holder for the Chicago Blackhawks, you better have that website ready to roll and have that number on speed dial if they get that number 1 pick. Because
or if somebody outside the top 11 gets the number 1 pick, the team with the worst record gets the number 1 pick.
Interesting.
I just read that on Tankathon earlier.
I don't know how they do this. Yeah.
The first overall pick is awarded by ping pong. Only a team can jump 10 spots. If a team from 12 to 16 wins the first drawing, the first pick will remain with the worst team.
Okay, so we're rooting for those guys too. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Rinkrats, for tuning in. We will be back, and especially as these trade rumors really start to heat up, we're going to have lots of shows, and we're going to have a lot to talk about. Thank you, Bardo. Thank you, Sean Fitzgerald. And I'm Andy Campbell. You all have a great night. Thanks for listening.